Hello. So, um, let's see how we're doing. So I was having a problem with so I still have on this monitor other work. I was having a problem with Goland getting weird. And I think it was because I was trying to run two versions of Goland at once. So I'm gonna try using IDEA on this monitor and we'll see how it turns out. We'll see how it turns out. Um So I have to remember where we got up to because I've forgotten and I wasn't entirely with it last time. Um, but I got a bit more energy today. I think last time I was getting lost in the source, thinking of too many things I needed to build out, rather than isolating it to what was necessary in the moment, which is fine. But today, let's see what we can do. So where was I? Do these tests not run? Okay, we are in a working state, so at least I left us in a working state last time, so that's always a good start. He says as... Oh no, sorry, no test to run. Okay, yeah, so it's not in a working state. It's, sorry, tags integration. Okay. Okay, so there's quite a few things I left broken. Okay, so we got a functional state. Um, so I'm gonna get comfortable, and then we're gonna see uh, where we're gonna take it from here. So I remember the pool here, we decided, or I decided, the dispatcher was going to be a pooled dispatcher. Now the default dispatcher would be a dispatcher. That's what the pool here was. Let's get comfortable and let's see what damage we can do. Um, so everything seems okay. Right. Time to get stuck in. So what was I trying to do? I remember, yeah, the biggest problem was I was just getting so lost in the source. I had like a small explosion of thinking of all of the things I'm gonna have to solve at once, which isn't good. Because I needed to isolate more what it was I was doing. So we have, if we go back through this, close everything. So yeah, we decided that the default dispatch was going to be a pool. I remember now. I was trying to do too much at once because what I was thinking was that I wanted it to start doing a full flow of handling a job in one go. Without necessarily getting the right plumbing in place first. And then I was trying to do the actual handling of jobs, and then getting all confused how I wanted to handle the plumbing without thinking about it. So that was the mistake I remember making. And we created this registry system with this type erased higher order function, I guess you could say, type erase function here. So we can have a generic handler for all of the generic, all of the type enabled generic jobs. We created the basis of the service because if I was going to try and test it full flow, I needed a service to hit, didn't I? Got itchy feet for some reason. Itchy ankles. Scratch, scratch, scratch. So we didn't link in all of these statuses, which we need to. And we started the concept of what work is, right? For the worker. So we're in a state where we added a lot of code, but we didn't add. I don't know if we added actually any functionality as such in the last. Trying to remember. Oh, we have the new ways of marking things. Yeah. Okay. So the main thing is that I remember wanting to pull back to prove that the register part worked on its own, right? So, because ultimately that's where I went wrong last time. I was trying to do too much at once, and I forgot what it was I was doing. So, what tests did I make last time? I might check the Git history. It was this here, wasn't it? Run a test. See, this, we want to test similar to this, but just testing the registration first, I think. So let's call this different things so we don't fight with our run a test in progress, because we might want to restore that to being functional afterwards. But let's see if we can get the register stuff. So let's say, I don't know, instead of welcoming, we'll greet someone. And I think I can copy and paste this time. I don't know what happened last time. Like I said, I think it was I was trying to run two IntelliJ instances on the same version, and I was getting all sorts of weird glitches. And I think it may have been doing some sort of like weird stuff behind the hood, behind the scenes with how it handles I don't know, the JVM stuff. So yeah, let's say this is our greeter. So this is what the user would write. This is what the developer using this would write. And let's say we have, this is what we got in response. So we're just doing a very basic test here because we just want to have just something. Right? So this is an extremely simple type of job. And what we want to do is we want to test registering it. Now, well, let's do that. So let's prove we can actually register this kind to be handled. Did I already make this test? No, it's just because I have to. Did I? Because I made the service last time, did I add any helper functions for calling the service? Or creating the service, sorry? New service. If we're registering something, do we even need to give it a store? Can it handle a nil store? Don't know. Either way, we'd need some sort of way of registering into the service. We would want to register it probably typed, so I don't know if this is how we actually want to register. So let's just do this for now, and then that we may change that method if that is the path we want to take. Let's just try and get the structure out, conceptually what it is we're trying to do, so then we can work towards fixing it, or implementing it. Probably would pass it. That. And then we'd want to prove that it has the handler registered. See, we're going to have to figure out, yeah, the actual structure here. Well, let's just, okay. So this would prove that we've registered something that handles email greet. And then we want to just prove that the something similar wasn't registered, like unknown, right? So this is the first thing we're going to have to implement. Because what I mean, I could do it like this, but I don't know if I like this. I think we're going to need a way of checking it with an interface. And then looking up the kind from that interface, right? And then That would be cleaner. So you would uh from the interface you would check, well, from the function you'll check, right? But it would meet the standard interface, right? Implement the interface. And then we would get the kind from there. That would be cleaner than explicitly defining it, I think. And then there's only one place you ever configure this, right, inside of this function, rather than potentially having a source of drift between how you register it and, you know, the kind here, right? So we'll get to implementing that in a second. Let's just have a think for a second before we try and implement anything that this is the structure that we would like. Now, what I don't know is if this would be handled here, or alternatively, we handle it in the facade. Because this is the internal logic, whereas the facade is the actual thing the developer implements. Which means that I don't know if we should be even interfacing here with worker domain at all, because ultimately the user wouldn't, because they wouldn't be even capable of doing so. That is a internal concept. So if it's in the facade, then we'd want a new file here. And how are these implemented again? Yeah. Because one way that we could do it, if we create a facade for the worker, then we can implement our interface again. Can't I reference it like this? I don't remember how you make this. Yeah. Worker. Why isn't it? Oh yeah, of course. Package worker. Right, so that's now exposed. I don't know why it jumped me down here. This is now exposed. What else do we want to expose? I don't say you're doing the thing again. We're just working. You were just working. You were just working. Now control jumping. Wow. What? I don't understand. When I start streaming, the control just starts going weird. Is it like why would it jump specifically between the W and the H? Isn't that weird? Just when I press control, it jumps specifically between the W and the H. I don't know. Don't understand. So, like, no matter where you click, it goes between the W and the. Oh wait a minute. This is a different H. This is H and E. Don't know. Maybe it's time to try out Z. Okay, we'll manually copy and paste. So where was I? Oh yeah, we're implementing the facade. I'm gonna have to look at that afterwards. So did I? Let's see what other things we should implement into the facade. So worker would be a good one. Does that work like I think it does? I could do this a bit tidier, like this. Trying to not press control unnecessarily and copying. Because yeah, I think can I just pass it through like this? Yeah, that would work. Yeah, that makes more sense. Yeah, because otherwise I was forcing it to always be any, which doesn't make a lot of sense. So we have job now. What other types do we have that the user might want to interface with? There's also the DTOs that they'd probably want to interface with. Should probably keep this off to the side so we can reference it as we go. Okay. So the developer would likely want access to the job state. I imagine. Okay, now everything's all. The job state. Yeah. So I think I'm gonna do something about these statuses because I think I made the wrong decision last time to possibly put them in the domain. I'm gonna copy these over here, but I think I might move the statuses to the DTO so that we can share that structure possibly with the DTOs, which are recording state, so things are a bit more type safe. But if we're gonna do this, people will want access to all of the states, and let's not Control C because they'll go weird. I might have a look if I can fix the control when I have pause in a bit. So I'm wondering, do we stringify it? Or do we leave it as the direct type? Because the DTOs all have the states currently string. So I think just for the purpose that everything in the DTO is currently already a string, we'll put it as a string. But I'm thinking of changing that to uh, be the named type. Name. I'm using control right now, and it's not being weird. I'm gonna point that out. So I don't know if it's like when a file has a specific character in it, the control starts going weird. Because look, I'm using control with jump around. So I don't know what that's about. I did recently. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's a bug with the latest version of IDEA. Though I would, you, even though I've had bugs recently with JetBrains products, it would seem like a weird bug. But the reason why I say it is I started to have this issue last stream, and literally just before last stream, I upgraded my IDE to the latest minor version. I have had that before with JetBrains. It's since it's only since the AI stuff, because I used to find that IDE is really stable. But I think with the AI stuff, they just started trying, shove stuff out the door too fast and frequently. So maybe it could be related to that. Because this is also the latest version of IDEA, which is obviously using the same engine. Okay. So I created a new service thing in worker domain, but people aren't meant to interface with the internal stuff. They need to interface with the facade. So you pass in the store, if I remember right. I'm probably gonna need an alias. on the store. I need to expose the service up here. So then we can return the service. New service, store. Perfect. So this means that instead of going, we should be able to go through the facade here directly. Though in saying that, okay, so we need a register function. So what I'm thinking is that we handle this in the facade. I usually don't like adding too much logic in the facade, but this isn't really logic as such. And then let's create an empty object to handle this, which would mean that we could take in the service. And then the worker. And we don't have anything yet, but we are going to add stuff here. So we're going to need some options. Do this for now. And we'll come back to what that means to us in a bit. Really should be a alias to a function, yes. And then we'll be able to say worker service, register handler, and now we would be able to reference the kind so that the user doesn't have the potential drift. And everything stays nicely defined in the same place. So we're going to have to type array this worker. So we're going to have to create a handler out of it, I think. And type arrays it. So I might not keep this logic here. Let's put it here for now because we just want to get things working. But I think I would rather put this inside of internal and then expose it out here, probably. So it's what did we call it? It was like register handler, isn't it? What did I call it? Where did I put it? Registry handler? Registry handler. So it's not very descriptive of a name, you know, registry handler. I might call it type arrays handler. Type erased handler. Type erased. Then it's a bit more clearer. I thought this would update it. Then it's a bit more clearer on what this handler is actually doing. So now the control issue is on this file. When I was coding in this file fine without the issue. That's weird. It's like when the file gets to, I don't know, a certain content in it. I just don't understand. I'm going to have to look this up. I wonder if people are talking about it on the forums. So, this should now be able to resolve. But I didn't do it specifically like this. I did it like this. So this allows you to register something into this worker service. And we've registered in this worker. Which handles this type of job. Now, obviously, that doesn't work until we've implemented this. Oh, of course. This is why it was not giving me the hint and why it didn't fix itself. Because you, my good sir, need to be exposed. Okay. So, let's type erase this. So I'm not sure I'm going to keep it like this, but we're going to serialize it to erase the type. And then we will be able to use it internally, you know, without having to worry about generics. I'm curious, though, what the performance of that would be. I think for now I'm going to use JSON everywhere, but I don't know if JSON is actually really what I'm going to stick to. Let's say job record. We failed to decode it. Find job and then we'll be able to say error Have a look at the stick. Is something a bit more energetic. Okay. Right, so where am I? So we've unmarshaled it. And then we're going to put it back to its actual typing. We need to record when this actually enqueued itself. I thought we had that. Probably added it to other structures, but not that one. And then we want to actually perform the work. Okay. Yeah, I do have enqueued at. So we have it in the record, but we don't store it in the job itself, which is a problem on this file. So we want it here. Have to copy and paste the right click all the time. It's really strange because I've been coding all day without the issue. Start OBS to stream. Don't know. Anyway, where are we? Does this work? No, it doesn't work. Because this is now no longer needed because I'm handling inside of the facade. Right. So we are successfully successfully registering the workers, the user provided worker, and something is registered to pick up that job. That job kind. Now, normally I configure my OTel file with the types of analytics I'd like to collect. I'm just seeing if I have an example here. I copied it from somewhere. Should have left in what I had. Here you go. Now I've lost myself. Where was I? Here we go. Come on. So we're gonna have a think about which counters and histograms we're gonna want at the very least, I think. So we can integrate these as we go. So we're going to want to keep track of the jobs that are being queued. We're going to want to keep track of the jobs which have been claimed. We're going to want to keep track of the jobs which have been completed and failed. Jobs which have retried, we're going to need to keep track of that. And then what we could keep track of is the work duration of jobs. Yeah. I'm thinking I'll code up most of this after the stream. Just because it's boring work. But we'll be able to interface with these directly. Let's not expose them, because I don't think we're actually going to let anything outside of this actually access them anyway. But we can do one, I guess. Let's just say for now, we'll just say job and queue. Okay, I'll do right other counters here. But at least we can reference them. Um, so not only did we implement the logic to register it, we also implemented the logic for it to decode the payload and invoke work. So let's see if that is fully implemented. Ay, 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 why did you select everything? So this is our worker, our handler, just thinking of how I'm going to test this. Because I wasn't planning on exposing it from the WDK, if I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, we could just see what's going on here. I'm probably going to have to trigger work. Or alternatively, I just call my work. Maybe I need to actually implement the... Oh! Hold on. Is the issue to do with me using this split functionality? Because I never do that when I'm normally working. The reason why I say that is because I just did control thing here, and then it randomly did that in this file. Maybe there's a glitch with using the split thing in the latest version of IDEA. That would be really bad. Because I jumped from one to the other. Oh, is it based on where the cursor is in the other? It is, isn't it? Oh, I don't know. I don't know. Because now it's jumping to here, which is was the same line that I had it on here, wasn't it? That they did line up. So maybe it's to do with the split thing. Was I even having the problem until I split? See, it's doing it now, and I removed the split. I don't know, this is just weird. Yeah. Is it like jumping to the same line on each file? 44. This one jumped to 36, so no. And now it's not jumping. But now this one still jumps to 44. Now this one jumps back to oh, I don't know. Okay. I think I'm going to have to actually start implementing work. So this test will come back to in a second. We're going to actually have to implement the full flow for work now. So we're registering. Yeah, the registration is now working fine. I think it's now time to move on. Still just not sure why. Jumping. I think it's time to move on to actually making dispatching work. So we started with this yesterday, or it was 2 days ago actually. Now we need to actually tidy it up and make it functional. Yeah, so we're going to need a lot of semaphores. This is the global one. We're going to need a per channel one. We're going to need per channel configuration. So we have the dispatch here for our dispatcher. We can probably promote this to being in the port. I have to go to some forums after this and see why control is just being so weird. Sorry, what was I doing? I need to match the signature. Just assumed I gave it in context. Yeah, so we can promote that to the port. We have our waiter here. This was the bit that I got a bit lost in source last time. I'm sure we're going to get through it this time. Getting a bit tired. Looking for music. Different music. So I quite like this music actually. What's this? Something to activate the brain juices and actually make me think. Okay. So when we want to retry jobs, let's think of the illities, right? Let's think of the actual um all of the things we're going to have to support to make this um reliable. So jobs will need the ability to back off. Jobs will need the ability to, if we have a back off, we want to make sure we have a jitter, because otherwise we could risk, jobs timing out due to load and then backing off, and then, that goes on forever because they're just synchronized. So we will need a jitter. Obviously, the ability to probably override that and to probably configure the algorithm. Okay. So let's shove these things in for now. So we can think how we want to weave these in. So we'll change the back off according to the attempt. So we can have it that the more attempts, the back off is exponential. Jitter, obviously, because if we don't, we can overload the system. Okay. So that should avoid collision in our scheduling system. We probably want the ability just to override the, like I said, the jitter, so we can just say no jitter. I say for this we'll have time dot duration. This might even be the default behavior, probably will be. So that would be the default jitter function. Actually, in saying that, let's make that the override for no jitter, and let's give it a default inside of the system that's internal. So let's just give it a safe default. Return base plus random n. Okay, we've got v2. And then we're going to need a configuration for the default, which we'll call jitter ceiling. Const default jitter ceiling. Yep. So this will be our default algorithm we implement. Bad music, actually. I never know with these uploads these days on YouTube which ones are AI generated and which ones are not. Because I think if it gets fingerprinted, it actually says, very clearly this is AI generated. But I suspect it's probably easy with post-processing to just be able to remove the fingerprint. This is nice. Okay. Um, we could also have some sort of exponential jitter implementation too. And that will implement with the back off. Func exponential jitter back off. This will allow you to pass in the jitter, I think. So we can have the concept. I want to be able to use my control like normal. I just don't know what's happening. Exponential jitter back off. So J equals default jitter. And then let's just say exponential back off with jitter. I don't know. Base maximum default jitter. Okay. And this will be our back off implementation. If attempt is less than 1, attempt equals so delay is base. For I equals 1, I is less than attempt I plus plus. So depending on the attempts we're in, let's say delay times equals 2. If delay is greater or equals to maximum, delay equals maximum. And then we can break the loop early. Delay equals, and then we hit our jitter function. It's gonna rather just say jitter. I usually like to just name out my variables. It becomes a bit clearer when you're reading. Right, so now we're adding a jitter on top of that. If delay is greater than maximum, delay equals maximum. So that the jitter can't make you go past the maximum. Return delay. So this will be our default algorithm for handling back off with the jitter for our jobs. Now we just need to integrate everything, I think, into our... And we're going to have to get our semaphores correct and get our concurrency exactly how we want it. Okay. Okay, where are we? Where are we? So, a pool can have a store. It can have a clock for deterministic time control. We have our... What are we doing? Registry. So that's our type erased registry. Then we have our config here. We created our global semaphore, which is our global concurrency cap. So we're going to want something similar for the queue itself. So each queue can have its own cap and keep track of the jobs inside of that. The There will be a queue concurrency limit too. Hey, can't type. You will be able to configure the back off and the jitter for a pool. If we want to close down the pool early, we'll need to be able to drain it. So we're going to need a channel for draining the pool. And if we do that, we only want to trigger it once. So what we're doing right now is ultimately the heart of the actual worker itself. So new pool, that's obviously important. Do we want to even expose it? Come on. We will want to start by initializing the semaphores. Around semaphores. So in order to do that, we're going to make this will be for the queue. And we're going to give it our limit, which is in the capacity limit, which will be in the configuration. We need access to the configuration. Config. Pool config. Stop jumping. So this will be, this is just optimization, but we're going to make it with the size of the concurrency that the user sets. So the developer sets. Then we're going to go over each item individually. So they have to actually give us a size. That'll be queue size. If queue size is smaller or equals to 0, then let's just ignore it. Otherwise, we want to actually create this capacity for our channel. Correct? Then let's create the pool. I'm going to need the registry too, aren't I? Why are you unhappy? Which registry am I using? I'd want to use the port, wouldn't I? Um, I need to create the global one too, don't I? So it'll be make with the capacity too. And we don't have to make that, we just made that. And then we're going to make our drain channel as such. And then what we might want to do is enforce normal limits on things. So we might want to say our global concurrency by default, if the user developer hasn't set anything, is let's set it to be relative to the amount of processes that they have. Times, and we're going to need a constant here, aren't we? Okay, so it had nothing to do with me splitting to the right, so let's do this again. So let's say all jobs per CPU. Let's say 3 for now, and I'll have a think. That should actually be. Let's make sure for all of these we have some safe defaults. So, global concurrency couldn't be. This always returns a minimum 1, doesn't it? I think it does, but just to be safe, we can do this. What else do we have inside of the config? If the whole floor is too low, it can't be negative. Why am I? If everything is safe default. Are there any other defaults we're going to need? We're also going to probably want the ability for people to configure a default timeout for uh, per job as part of the pool itself. Then we'll be able to say default job timeouts. Let's just say 5 minutes for now. And then if that hasn't been configured, we'll see. Okay. That hasn't been configured, we'll set it to the default. Come on. What just happened? Everything reformatted when I did control this. Okay. Perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. There's any. Something karma. Okay. Okay. So we have our pool now. If someone hasn't given us a back off, we should use the default back off. Something else. We should do the same thing with jitter probably too. Or did we not create a default back off helper? Thought I created a. Oh yeah, sorry, we got a default jitter. Okay. Let's say time, second, time, minute. And then we're going to need the jitter, aren't we? Which would be config.jitter. I know this one has the default built in, doesn't it? If config.jitter equals default jitter, we'll do it like this. And then okay. And then if they haven't told us about any queues, we'll just register it with the default queue. I'm wondering if we should always add the default queue, regardless of whether or not they asked for it. But probably not. Let's just give them the default queue. Yep. Which also means if you concurrency, this is a bit hacky. But then we'd be able to say, I don't know if I should be this authoritative in setting up the default here. Let's just pick something arbitrary for now. And then I can think later what that should be. I don't know if it should even have a limit by default, or if it's one of those things where the user, the developer, if it should be unbounded, or it should default to a really high default. So then the developer ultimately is in control, but doesn't get a problem with runaway jobs. I think I'm going to leave an extremely high default, so it just prevents runaway things. Okay. So now we have the actual pool created. We can actually start doing dispatch work with it. Now, I mentioned about the drain channel, so that's because I started this. Where did I get to? Because we're going to want to handle this, aren't we? How do we access? Where are we? P dot drain channel. Same thing. Yep. Okay, yeah, so I wasn't sure what I wanted to do here. That's right, I remember that. Yeah, I remember this because we need to... I didn't want it to be unbounded. Yeah, I remember this. Okay, well, I feel like we've got the actual pool set up properly. And I remember... Yeah, so we'd only claim according to the amount of available free slots in the global semaphore. I remember implementing that. We might want to have more helper functions. before we really dive into the dispatch code itself. Because we're going to need the ability to acquire a queue slot. If I can spell acquire. So the queue we're acquiring the slots from. So Sam. Okay. And p dot qsam. I think I might just rename this all semaphore. What am I doing? Q. So if the queue doesn't exist, come on. No. Oh. So we've been able to acquire it. But if the context is over, let's handle the context. And we're also going to want to handle the drain, like we did in the other Twitch group too. Okay, so that acquires us a queue slot. Let's see. Talking about all of these drainings, we're going to need a way of actually beginning the drain. So let's make sure we haven't drained already. Then we'll close like this. We're going to need a function to help us release slots. That should empty out the chat. I usually find the IDE to sometimes get upset when I do this. It's not the IDE, it's the linter. Already got enough problems with the IDE as it is right now. Ugh. Okay. Say, what other things? I think that's it for now, and we're going to start actually seeing what we can do to implement. And we might come back here to add more things. But this is probably the fundamentals of what we need. I think. So our dispatcher, we dispatch, we have our handler. We run. We respect the draining here. We added some OTel thing for keeping track of the duration of time of work. So we want to integrate that here. So we have our ticker. If a job panics, it shouldn't bring down the framework, and that's very important. So let's recover. Because we can't have it bringing down the framework just because there's a panic. Say worker pool run. Because that wouldn't be acceptable that, you know, a job can crash the framework. I think this is the fundamentals of the run code, really. So all of the logic we have to implement, I think, is going to be here in claim and dispatch. Let's see what we got to last time with this code. So we get the we claim the due job. We claim the due jobs. The jobs that are due. Hey, 200 IQ Lixie, how are you doing? So we claim the due jobs, according to the amount of free slots we have, up to the limits of the free slots we have. If nothing happens, then nothing happens. Then we have to go through all of these jobs and dispatch them. And yeah, this was the thing I didn't like last time. I didn't like this. So let's not do that. I'm wondering if this was even the right function to call to begin with, or if I come on, you gotta let me. This is Golang. The language by Google. Have you used Golang before? The Go programming language. It's the programming language which tends to be behind a lot of cloud computing these days. As you do a lot with Godot, probably. And what we're working on right now is I have my own framework for what am I doing? I have my own framework for Golang called Pico, which long story short allows you to write files like Vue. If you've ever used Vue for making websites, but it's it allows you to write files like Vue, which is a JavaScript framework, but using Golang, so it's all server-side rendered. Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate it. What we're working on right now is, because Pico is like an entire framework, has quite a lot of features and functionality into it. One of the features I want to add is a proper worker system inbuilt into the actual framework, because right now with all of the projects I implement, I end up just implementing a rudimentary worker system for each client, which is not what I want to do in the long run. I want to have a nice, central, stable worker system for the framework, which I can implement on each project that I want. And so I really want it to be robust at the core, and that's the premise of what I'm trying to build. So trying to make it nice and robust. Obviously, there's other solutions out there already to do it, but I hate using other people's stuff. Yeah, thank you very much. So I'm wondering if it's a fundamental flaw me calling the dispatch like this, because we're going to want to handle this with our semaphores. Yeah, I love to implement everything. It's the most fun like that, and that's usually the mindset that most of the Go community has. which is, why not do it yourself, right? Which is the the polar opposite of the JavaScript mindset, which is I must find an implementation someone else has made, right? Left pad is the most stereotypical example of that in the JavaScript ecosystem. I don't know if you uh, are knowledgeable of this incident. It's got its own Wikipedia page. But long story short, um, this developer took down this package called left pad. All it did is pad spaces to the left of text. And it took down a significant portion of this. This is the entirety of the this plugin. Yeah, I think it's essential to do things yourself, right? Like I said, this was the entirety of this package, and it brought down so many packages in its wake. I don't know if it says here. But so many things broke across all of the web just because people couldn't pull their left pad package. And you also get those packages for JavaScript like, isNumber and stuff like that. This package was downloaded 15 million times before its removal. And it's just this. It's funny that it has its own Wikipedia page. And if I recall correctly, in order to resolve the situation, NPM forcibly restored his package against his will, just because, so much of the JavaScript ecosystem was dependent on this package. And there was another one of these not so long ago with another thing, Core.js. That guy actually made something functional, though. But he threatened to take it down a few years ago because the Core.js guy was Russian, and due to the war in Ukraine, he wasn't able to get funding anymore. Because obviously he's blacklisted because he's Russian, right? Blacklisted from like these contribution platforms for open source people to get paid. And he also, threatened to take it down, and the JavaScript ecosystem was all panicking. It's this type of thing happens every so often in the JavaScript ecosystem. It's funny. This package was unpublished. Crazy. So I prefer the Go mindset, which is to do everything. Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate it. If you decide to stay to tune in, usually what I do is I just try to explain what I'm thinking in the moment, so that potentially can be a shared learning experience, and yeah. But no, I appreciate the kind words. Thank you very much. So, we don't want to call the dispatch directly, because then we're bypassing our concurrency control. So what we're going to want to do is to have some sort of like dispatch row, I think. Let's try and let's try and implement this and see what that's going to look like. Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate it a lot, and also thank you very much for the follow. I appreciate that too. I hope you have a nice evening, morning, middle of the day, noon, wherever you are. So have a nice day. Dispatch row. E dot global semaphore. So we're going to record that we're doing this dispatch. So we can acquire our queue slots here. Dot acquire queue slots. DTX. Row.queue. Perfect. E.release slots. Row return. So if we couldn't acquire it, we'll release our slot. We're going to probably want a way of recording and storing jobs currently in flight. I think. Some sort of like sync map. Atomic map. Like this. Atomic. What am I doing wrong? Atomic, is map in a different, What was atomic map? One. Atomic map. In the sync package. Oh, it's in the sync package. Because then I could do p.inflight store. Then I could say row.id and actually store the running job so we have it as an easy reference. But I don't think I created any constructs yet to do that. So we're going to have to create the construct to do that. So say running job. Create it in a second. And we're going to want to pass in the record, which would be the row. And then we might as well just record when we started at here. E.clock. E.clock. now. Now. And I'm thinking that instead of this, because this is unbounded, so we can remove this and then put it into a weight group. So we're going to need a weight group. P.weight group dot go. And then we're going to for OTel purposes, we're probably going to want to run this within a span when we actually run the actual work. We're probably going to want to run it within a span. We should probably create my running job thing. What am I doing? Okay. We're going to... We're going to have to clean up the in-flight store too. When the item is gone. But we'll worry about that in a second too. So when we actually execute work, we're going to want to record that in a span. We're going to want to clean up the item from the in-flight store when it's done, because that's temporary information. Let's create a function for the actual logic of executing, which it will handle the structure around the execution process. Hey Mohammed, how are you doing? That's good to hear. We're coding in Go today and trying to add a new worker system to my framework. So from here, we'll call our execute, I think. p.execute. And we can just pass in the context and what we're actually executing, which is the row. So we're going to do the structure around execution here. So what did I say? So we want to release our slots once we've done. So that'll be this row. We will want to remove the item from the in-flight once we're done. That'll be this row ID. This might be excessive, but we could handle the panic again. I don't know if that's excessive, though. But let's be liberal with it until we see otherwise in a prof. That makes sure we can't panic. And let's do the run and span so we make sure we have it all here for OTA. L.run in span. Give it the context. Say worker execute. Func. To be the span context. We don't care about the logger. So let's just ignore that. Then it returns an error. Perfect. So this is where it would actually... Yeah, I love Golang. Golang is such a lovely language. It's such a lovely language. It's my favorite language too these days. It's probably been my main language for the past... Probably since around 2018, maybe. It's really welcoming, I find, of a language. And what I'm working on is, yeah, so I have this I have a framework which started about 5 years ago. And it's like built up piecemeal over the past 5 years, where the basis of it is I don't like using too much JavaScript and being too much in the JavaScript ecosystem. And so what I wanted to do, I don't know if you've ever used a language like Vue.js, a framework like Vue.js. What I wanted to do was to create so a server-side rendered version of Vue.js. So not like Nuxt, because obviously Nuxt is server-side rendered Vue.js, but it's really slow and sluggish. What I wanted was something where I could write my template, just like Vue.js, right? But instead of JavaScript in the code block for that file, I can write Go code. So, for example, in this single file component, I have my HTML template and the Go code in the same file. And then below that, I can have the CSS for that component too. And then I can call the actual... I can write any normal Go code here because it all compiles down. And I can call other Go code that's, inside of my internal or my package if it's been exposed from the templating system. And so it means that when I create websites now or applications, I can keep it all in Go. So I don't even have to faff around with JavaScript or the JavaScript toolchain at all. And the framework is a bit bigger than this because it's basically the culmination of all of the various tooling I've had to build for clients in the past. And the clients I've have had different backends, different implementation. They want things in slightly different ways, right? So someone may be on AWS, some of them may be on Google Cloud Storage. So it doesn't just do templating; it also does the backend for storage. So you'll have one standard storage interface for all of your storage needs, right? Like S3, pre-signing URLs, sharing, your storage files, right? It's got one standard interface for caching, that'll sit in front of Redis or Valkey. Um, it has a whole querier implementation, which is very much like SQLC, but my version is a lot more robust if you like to use CTEs, because SQLC just like shits the bed when you make too complicated queries. um, and there's a lot more to it. So the templating system is also used for emails. You can write emails with the same templating system, or you can write PDFs with the same templating system. So, for example, if I come down here to my integration tests integration, I think I might have it in my history here because I was showing someone this the other day. I'll need to get the path. PDF, test data, um, absolute path. See if I can. Yeah. So, for example, this is a PDF which is written in the same templating system. Now here I've put all of the CSS, in line, but that's just for the test itself. You don't need to. You can put the CSS in the CSS block here. But it means also, because one of the things I kept being frustrated about is whenever I would have to make PDFs for clients in the past, always messing around with some PDF library, and the positioning of everything becomes very frustrating. So it can also render out PDFs. So there's quite a lot to it. And right now, what I'm working on is, like I said, it's the worker system, because I have quite a lot of applications built with this framework. I don't know how many things have been built with this framework already, but it's probably near 20 things that I've built using this framework. But I always end up implementing my own. I keep implementing a worker system on each project. Now, usually it's just Go routines or whatever nonsense, right? But some of my projects have a more sophisticated worker system. Some of them, just very simple background Go routines or whatever. And what I would like to do is have an actual worker system built into the framework. Ultimately, I think I'm building something similar to River. If you've ever heard of River. It's a library for Golang. But I want it to be in the actual framework itself. So, especially because some of River requires you to pay, and I think I'd much rather just build it all and make it free. So, yeah. Make it all free and open source. And with River, I think you also have to pay to have certain interface elements is part of that interface, to manage things easier. And I just want to do that all for free. I mean, yeah, because I want it, so might as well. So that's the goal, because I want to have things like workflows, batching, dead letter queue. These things I think are essential in an actual worker system. So why put it behind Pro? $125 per month. Much rather just make it free and open source. But yes, that's the idea. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how long it takes me to actually code this out. It's I've been going at it for I think I started building this half a week ago now. But if you want to have a look, that's it's all there and it's all open source. It's a massive project. It's genuinely massive. But I didn't do it because I thought it would what was the saying? We didn't do it because it would be easy. We did it because we thought it would be easy. It's on The Simpsons. So this would be the actual place that we actually run the actual work, I think. So we'll come back to that in a second. Potentially we would return so it can handle an error. If error equals nil. And we're currently working on a proper website for it. It's almost done. I think the idea is to release it because I've been making this with my wife, by the way. She's been working on the website for a few months now, really. And I think we're going to release that potentially this week. So there should be a really nice website with a very clear documentation on how to use the framework if you were interested in looking at it. Right now, the website is just like a little dummy website where if you go to pico.sh. Yeah, I don't know when. It may I may even get it up around Wednesday or Thursday. But if you look later in this week at pico.sh, the website, then there should be quite a lot of documentation and demonstration on how the framework works. Because what I also have is I also have the ability for the engine for the templating system to run inside of WebAssembly. And so I have an actual playground on the website too. So you can, so you'll be able to play around with the templating system on the website and have a look at it without actually downloading or installing anything. Right now, we're on the final stages, but she's not happy with how the homepage looks, the landing page, and it's been redone a few times. So it's just getting the wording right and how we actually want to present it, because it's a very niche product, and the reason why I say niche is because the it's a bit one of those like weird things where the Golang community hates using shared tooling and loves to do everything itself. And me being a member of the Go community loves to do everything myself, therefore I built this thing. But it's how do you present it in a way where a community that inherently hates these types of frameworks might be interested in trying it out. So that's the difficulty, because I think it's ultimately going to be one of those things where it's mostly just going to stay something where I uh, end up using mostly myself. But I would be curious if there was anyone else interested in trying it out and seeing what it does for them. I just hate the JavaScript ecosystem. I hate the JavaScript ecosystem. I hate how every 6 months you have to re-implement everything you've built using it because they've released a new version of a library that's incompatible with other versions of other libraries. But it's you have to upgrade this thing because there's incompatibilities, and they're constantly changing their implementations for things. They won't settle on something stable. And yeah, that's the fundamental frustration behind everything. Because we used to build all of our websites using Nuxt. But what kept happening was Nuxt would release a new version, would want to go onto the new version. Some of the modules wouldn't be compatible with it. Even official Nuxt modules would be incompatible with other newer versions of other official Nuxt modules. Yeah, the fundamental security of the language is also great. And I think the main reason why it's so easy to write secure things in Go is because there's not a lot of stuff you can do in Go. And what I mean by that is there's not a lot of ways of writing code. And so it's actually extremely easy for a linter to pick up bad Go code. Whereas it's a lot harder to have good linters, I think, for other languages. Because there's so many different ways of writing that language that it's harder to detect if someone's just done something stupid. I need to find different music. Okay. So we will want to where was I? We will want to record with the hotel what we're doing here, probably a bit more proactively than we are, because we want the observability. And we want to record it depending on the kind, because that'll be the clearest. That'll be what people probably want to see in their observability platform. That would really excite me if you're able to find value in it, because it's been, like I said, quite a passion project for me over the past like I said, it's been about 5 years or something like this, and it's always excited to get other people's perspective, because it allows you to take one step back and actually appreciate what you've built. But I'm planning to do streams like this. I haven't quite figured out how many days per week, but quite frequently. And so hopefully you'll be able to also catch me doing these streams in the future. And then you'd be able to also tell me your experience as well. And I'd find that very interesting. And if you have any issues, please let me know. Because it's trying my hardest to make sure there's no bugs. There is a pure astronomical amount of tests in the code base. And most of the tests are AI generated. And that's just because if I hadn't, it would have been impossible to have written the sheer amount of tests, which I do have. Now, I realize that that means probably like 25% of the tests are probably utter bollocks. But I think it's just better just having such a sheer amount of tests to throw at the code base to prove that it is actually able to handle so many different scenarios. And that's one of my favorite ways to use AI, right? To just completely throw a sheer amount of tests at a problem. And then I might have to check in the rest of my code how I actually do this in other places. I need to give it the option. How do you do this again? So it looks like it's like attribute dot string. Sorry, it's metric with attributes. That's right. Okay. So now we need to solve this. How we actually execute the work. I see you starred the repo. Thank you very much for that. All right. Okay. Are you German by any chance? Nope. Okay, let's have a think for a second. What am I working on? I'm working on my framework for Golang. So I have a framework for Golang here, which I use for my clients to build the applications and websites for them. The basis of the framework, at its heart, the templating system, is that I can create these single file components, which are very similar to Vue.js. So they have like a template section and then a script section. But unlike Vue.js, which would have JavaScript in the script section, I can put Golang in my script section. And so it allows me to write my server-side rendered applications or websites in pure Go without having to worry about the JavaScript toolchain or any of that. I can still use JavaScript on these pages. I can still add a JavaScript script block for interactivity and such for the front end, but it allows me to keep the front end tightly coupled to the back end. So I don't, for example, have to worry about creating API endpoints or, open API type conversions from Golang to TypeScript and things like this. So it allows me to have everything in one nice bundle here. Yeah, the templating, well, yeah, because it's a server-side rendered framework, so it all runs on the back end. There is a part of it which runs on the front end, which is I have these reactive PKC files, which are the same concept here, but they run inside of a web component. So it allows you to have islands of reactivity on websites. Like, for example, let's say you want to have a search box. You might want that search box to be reactive, as in when someone's typing, the elements on the page update reactively to the variables held in the state of the components, if that makes sense. So it allows you to write your own reactive islands. But most of the framework is based on server-side rendering and being a backend framework. And the framework does a lot more than templating. It also does storage, caching, database querying, PDF generation, email generation, blah de blah de blah. There's quite a lot more to it. And what I'm working on right now specifically is I want to implement a new worker system into my framework, because right now, whenever I create a new application, I always end up creating my own, creating a different worker system for each client. You know, sometimes I use Go routines in the back end. Sometimes I have something that integrates with the database, and all of these different types of things, right? And so I'm creating something similar, I think, because I haven't used it. Creating something similar to River. Um, but River has a lot of stuff on which is paid. And so I want to do a lot of stuff similar to River, but have it fully open source. And just like how River has all of this interface stuff here, which they make you pay for, I want to do that all open source because River makes you pay a subscription of $125 per month. So I'd much rather, yeah, do it all myself and then have it all open source inside of the system. And then I can have one central worker system for all of my clients inside the framework itself. So that's what I'm working on right now. So right now it's a lot of thinking because it's the core concurrency part that I'm building right now that handles the internals of the actual worker system. So it's just making sure that everything works in um a way where I'm controlling the resource limits, because that's always what I try to do whenever I'm building stuff. I'm always thinking, how can I make sure I don't exhaust the resource limits, right? You know, like if this system was DDoSed, right? Like how can it handle the situation? So it's currently a lot of thinking just to make sure that I'm handling all of the various flows there. You can check out the repo if you want here. As I was saying before, I'm hoping to release a proper website for it later this week. Maybe around Wednesday, Thursday. I don't know when I'm actually going to release it. It's my wife has also been working on this framework with me too. We've been working on it for about 5 years now, and we're on the final touches of the homepage of the website. So hopefully, once that's released later this week, pico.sh, it will really, you know, if you're interested and have a look, demonstrate how it all works. But yeah, right now I'm in a thinking phase because I'm trying to think how the rest of this will all tie together. Yeah, I know what an ERP system is. The thing is that I do have some other projects I have going. And I have something else which in the future I hope, you know, can make money too. I'm not going to divulge any details on it right now, but I have to admit I always find the tinkering side of software engineering the most fun. The It sounds silly, but the solving domain issues gets very tiring when you're ultimately dealing with the end user, which you have to if you actually want to make money, right? Um, and sometimes they make me so frustrated. Yeah, exactly. But the sometimes I get so frustrated trying to build something for a client, and then them coming up to you and being like, "It should work like this," and then you're like, "Why are you telling me how it should work?" And then, you know, they're like, "This is a shit product. I want it to work like this. It should work like this." And then you're like, "Oh, but it has to work like this for this other person," right? So that's always my frustrating, you know, the thing that always frustrates me the most of building SaaSes and things like that for other companies and stuff like this. Sometimes I feel like they can get so demanding in what they expect from you. Um, but yeah, we'll see. Um, but I do have some other stuff I'm building, and this framework is powering those things. Yeah, exactly. And that's one of the things I love the most about tinkering on the framework is at the end of the day, I know I am the primary client. And so if I want to waste time trying to make it 5% faster, then I can waste the time doing that because I want to. But anyway, so where am I? I have to admit, sometimes it does feel a bit weird open sourcing stuff in this day and age because I was always a big believer in open sourcing, but it's a weird thing because obviously these days when you open source stuff, you're obviously directly feeding the intelligence of these LLMs. And it's not that I'm against LLMs, but it does feel like this weird vibe where it's like I'm directly making some of these LLMs potentially more powerful. Um, and they're making money and I'm not. Yeah, I used to know some people from Brazil. They were great people, and they moved over to Europe just because they were so stifled in Brazil, trying to grow and all of this. Um, they were from Fortaleza, the city Fortaleza, which, from what I understand, well, what they would tell me is like the highest crime city in the world. So, don't know if that's true, but I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it properly. But yeah, yeah, Fortaleza. It's They would always tell me, this is what they'd always tell me. They'd always tell me, oh, you've got to go. It's such a nice city. It's such a nice city. But just be careful because if you do the wrong thing, they're going to kill you. So it's not the best tourism board, apparently. No, that's Rio de Janeiro. Well, I don't think I'll be popping down uh anytime soon, but on the Fortaleza, you okay? Okay. So maybe let's have a look at the map. Maybe if I do head down to Brazil at some point, we'll go to Fortaleza then. They'd always tell me that it's such a beautiful place. Let's have a look. I think I lost my music. You're gonna have to give me a second because music takes priority. Let's put on some Brazilian drift funk while we're here. Okay. Oh, that's not far from Rio de Janeiro. I need the man though. Well, I apologize, but I love it. So the letters. I'm taking a slight detour from programming here. What I always think whenever I see places like this is how nice the weather must be in comparison to what I'm used to. I mean, just the fact that there's a sun in the sky is a good indication that the weather's going to be better than I'm used to. Pop down into random villages. It's a nice place. I always just think you must get so much fulfillment from just so much sun all the time. Just like, just absorbing so much sun all the time. I'm British, so that means we get sun for a few days per year. And that's our summer. I think I'll stop looking for now, but it's a nice place. I want to figure out what I'm doing here. Yeah, we're zooming around the city. Okay. So we need to implement the actual code which executes the job, I think. Which will be the actual thing that calls dispatch. Because dispatch is the actual thing that calls, which executes which calls the handler to execute the code. So, it was nice talking to you, Mohammed. If I catch you again, I'll be really curious if you've had the ability to look at the framework. I appreciate it a lot. Thank you. Run. We already have a function called run. We already have a function called run. Run and root. And would pass in the context in the row. And in here, we will call dispatch. But I just have to think what actually is going to happen around it. This is very crunchy music. Let's find something else. Something better for brain juices to concentrate. Okay. Where was I? Because we'll have something along the lines of if we have an error, then we would want to mark it as failed, right? Mark completed. We'll have to implement those. Just to think what the actual structure behind this would be. If we're going to mark it as failed, we'd need to know the error. Okay. We would want to... so this will be the structure around actually executing the job. So this is the perfect place to actually record the duration of the job. So that's going to come in. Still got that bug with control. If he dot as handler, if it doesn't have this handler, then we could print a message that this doesn't exist. So here would need to handle the missing executor. And obviously you'd return early. This is also probably the right place to handle timeouts for the job. Come on. We need our structure for creating our timeout. That would be our timeout. But this could also not be set. Starting to get a bit too tired to think. Can I, Oh. I'm being stupid. Okay. If, let's do it like this. Can we have like a thing for default timeout? Default job timeout. So here we could say get our logger. L.warn. No worker registered for kind. And then we can pass in the kind here. Is it not a function? No, it's just a... Oh yeah, sorry. This isn't how it works. Logger, domain, string, kind. Still can't use my control for some reason. Let's say we can do logger, domain, string, and then job ID. Row.id. Perfect. Okay, that's looking good. So to mark something as being failed, that's in the store. Mark failed. Okay, that's the function I was looking for. So we can pass in the context. the row ID, and that's the error, which would just be error, right? And you probably can return an error yourself. Lots of errors going around. Elder warn. Failed to mark, job failed. Logger, domain, string, job ID, row ID. Logger, domain. Come on. Error. Error. We would also want to do the same thing here. Which is like jobs failed. Add kind, be a bit more clear. Oh, sorry, that's not a failed, that's kind claimed count. Otherwise it's a bit confusing with the naming. So jobs fail to add to for the hotel telemetry for observability. And this just be a big fat 1. 1. I guess we can just keep the information about the kind there, like this. Okay. So that's clean. Then we're going to want to do something similar, but for marking as completed. Mark completed. I need the result. Nil. Failed to mark job completed. This isn't passing in an error. And then we can say jobs completed. Okay. L dot internal job completed. Okay. Now we need to handle timeout. So we're gonna need a context with a cancel. Context with cancel pause. The cause format error F. Job blah 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 blah. Exceeded timeout blah 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 blah. Exceeded timeout context deadline exceeded. We have that sentinel. Then we can say timer E clock after func timeout. We'll cancel with this cause. When the function ends, we'll stop this timer and cancel the which means we can now pass in the new context into the dispatch function. That's it. I think that's it. I think that's it. So, I thought that was it, but now I'm seeing an error in the IDE. Why don't we handle errors? Um, might have a break sometime soon. Okay. We'll tidy up those errors in a second. I'm gonna have to write the actual integration test for this. So it actually doesn't make sense to return these errors, I think. The reasoning is we're already routing, so this shouldn't be like this. We're already handling the error through the store, so there's no point double handling it. No point a failed job isn't an error. I think that's the key thing. Necessarily. I'm wondering if in here we should mark it as failed too. Let's worry about that in the future. So, I'm thinking that we've now done the core flow of actually dispatching and running jobs. Which means we should be able to dispatch a job through this test now and actually test that the work is invoked. Believe that to be true? So we haven't finished wiring this up because nothing is using new pull. I'm thinking we made really good progress though. I'm thinking that the next goal will be what this runner test was trying to do initially and got overwhelmed with. I think this is the, this is the prize. Because now I have a lot more going on here. So we're a lot closer to actually achieving this. Ultimately, what just happened last time was I just was trying to do too much at once. So we could... So this is obviously confusing. So this would be, I don't know, our... say worker node. Think of a better name. Gotta... Alright. So we're going to need some sort of runner still to actually trigger the beginning of this. Just give you a type just to shut. Can I just say interface? And we do want this code, but this will be as such. So that's going to have to be exposed. And likewise, we might as well type it, I think, with the same logic of what we did with register. And then probably this would return the handler. So I think this is what we're going to try and build next time, rather than doing it now. But at least we can define it more now. Because we need to figure out what we're missing in order to actually fully pad out the rest of this logic. So with the handler, would be able to call the wait to make this synchronous. Pass in the context. So where do I define these? Okay. Because I created it in wait job state waiter. And it returns the job state and an error. That makes sense. Yeah. Because we're enqueuing this specific job, and then we're going to wait for the response of this queue, for this to be enqueued and to be ran. And then we would be able to prove. I think we're almost there in getting this working. We just need to link up the last things through the facade and actually have things working with the pool, because that's not linked up. Implemented but not linked up. And then we would want to prove that it has completed. Oh, yeah, of course. I was confused for a second why it wasn't helping me. Of course, we're not wired it up yet. And then, so our goal for next time, for tomorrow possibly, is to finish wiring this up so this can run. We're almost there. We've done the majority of the pool logic today, I think. The core, like, the fundamental heart of it. Now it's just all about finishing wiring everything up. And then we can get this to run. And then we have a worker system that actually will work, because it will actually execute this. And then we have the basis to grow the additional functionality on top of. Well, thank you to everyone who tuned in. And I think tomorrow possibly might be a big one where we finish wiring this all up. And then we have the basis of a functional worker system. This is going to grow into a lot more, though, because we're going to need a lot of logic for workflows, for DAGs, for batching, for all the stuff we're going to build out. But at least then we're going to be able to actually have a functional, basic, rudimentary worker system. Okay. Thank you for all tuning in. Bye bye.